All right, let's talk politics. A brand new Fox News poll finds that independent candidate RFK Jr. actually beats both Trump and Biden in favorability, as you can see the numbers right there. And their campaigns are reacting to the growing chance that he could actually change the course of the election of 2024.
That he has no path to victory. He is playing the role of spoiler candidate.
He's probably the most liberal person in the race, including the Green Party. I think he's probably going to hurt Biden. I don't see him hurting me.
So let's ask that man how he feels about those comments about him. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is here now. Congratulations. Great to see you. Congratulations on getting on North Carolina. And you've named Nicole Shanahan your running mate.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of these states require, don't they, Robert? They need you to name a running mate ahead of time for some reason.
There are 26 states where you can't start gathering signatures to get on the ballot without having a running mate first. So the announcement of Nicole as our running mate allows us now to get on those states, and we're going to move very, very quickly to get on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
We have a conservative base that every political party watches Fox, but a lot of conservatives like Fox. They like where you stand on vaccines, men playing in women's sports, immigration. What other conservative issues do you have that will appeal to those voters?
Well, I don't look at myself as liberal or conservative. I feel like I'm common sense on issues. I think the issues that are really existential in this country are issues that are important to both political parties. The national debt is $34 trillion now. We're now spending more on servicing that debt, paying off the interest, than we pay for the military. Within 5 years, 50 cents of every dollar collected in taxes is going to go to the debt. This is unsustainable. Within 10 years, it'll be 100%. Mm-hmm. President Trump and President Biden ran up that debt. The two of them in just 4 years ran up a higher debt than all the presidents in history back to George Washington combined. And so I don't think we're going to get a change. And this is really existential for our children. The chronic disease epidemic, which now is the biggest issue in this country. 60% of our people have chronic disease. When my uncle was president, it was 6%. Mm-hmm. The cost of diabetes, when I was a kid, the typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his lifetime. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who goes into his office is pre-diabetic or diabetic. And we are paying more to treat diabetes than the entire military budget. The cost of all these chronic diseases is $4.3 trillion. It's almost 5 times our military budget. It's more than any other country in the world. We are the sickest country in the world. Why is nobody ever talking about this? Why aren't our agencies telling us? Why has America got this problem and nobody else does?
Right. Well, Robert, one of the big issues for Democrats they've talked about is the threat to democracy. You raised some eyebrows yesterday when you were comparing the former president to the current president. You said in an interview that you believe that Joe Biden is a bigger threat to democracy than Donald Trump. This is what you have to say. Watch.
When people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy.
Why did you say that?
And by the way, I said I can make that argument, and I think it's an argument that we ought to be having. President Biden has done something that no other president in history has done, which is to order media, particularly the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google, to censor his political opponents. And, I can say this because I just won a lawsuit in the Federal Court of Appeals, now before the Supreme Court, because he began censoring me 37 hours after he took the oath of office, swearing to defend the Constitution. White House officials were on email with Facebook saying to them, you got to take down his posts. Facebook actually pushed back and saying there's no misinformation here. This is actually what he's saying is accurate. and they had to make up a new term called malinformation, which is information that is accurate but nonetheless inconvenient to, politically inconvenient. So there's been the First Amendment was put in the Constitution. Madison, Hamilton had it, said we put it, free expression, to guarantee the First Amendment, because all the other rights are dependent on it. If you have a president who can censor his political opponents, he has the license for any kind of atrocity. That is a genuine threat to our democracy. I think, what President Trump said about, about questioning the election and to the extent that he engaged in an effort to overthrow that, of course, that's a threat to democracy, but it is not the worst threat, undermining the First Amendment of our Constitution and then weaponizing the federal agencies to get his opponents off the ballot. And in my case, I'll just say particularly, denying me Secret Service protection. That's never happened in history.
You think he's behind that?
What?
Do you think Joe Biden is behind the
Of course he is.
Does he know that your dad was assassinated?
He has a bust of my father behind him at the Oval
So how does
Office.
he sleep at night?
Well, I don't know, but it's just not right. All of these, the use of the courts, the use of prosecutors, the use of all these federal agencies to change our political landscapes is wrong, and we should be debating about it. What President Biden did with his censorship project is he told the social media companies, we're going to withdraw, we're going to bring an antitrust case against you, and we're going to withdraw your Section 230 immunity, which is existential for those companies, if you don't give us a portal to censor. And then who did he give access to that portal? The CIA, the FBI, CISA, the IRS, NIH. So you had all these federal agencies that were now able to silence people who were questioning their policies, and that is really anti-American and anti-democratic.
Bobby, let's start where we started. Let's end where we started, and that was with the fact that with the new Fox News poll, you actually beat Joe Biden and Donald Trump in favorability. How much of that do you think is because of your take on the issues and your point of view, or is it, I'm just tired of the other two guys?
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you quantitatively.
What does it feel like?
Well, it feels like people are tired. People want somebody telling them the truth. They believe that the government lies, and which is true. If you don't think the government's lying to you, you're not paying attention. And this isn't, the government did not always lie to the American public. I remember when I was a kid, 80% of Americans believed that the government would never lie to them. Mm-hmm. And now 99% of people
we saw that during COVID.
Well, you made a big choice. Nicole Shanahan, 35 years old, 36 years old, very successful, extremely, very, very bright. But there's nobody would think that she is anything but way left. She supported George Gascon. We know that in the past. She also came out and is called IVF, one of the biggest lies that's being told about women's health today. So why would you pay, if you want to get Republican votes, why would your first major choice be someone who is so identified with the Democratic Party who supported
and
Pete Buttigieg?
And where do you stand on IVF?
Well, I support IVF, but people should listen to what she says about IVF. She went through IVF and had bad experiences, and what her experiences shed light on the process. She's very smart. She's obviously not against IVF in principle. It's the domination by the pharmaceutical industry of that technology and some of the bad science that she's talking about that needs to be addressed. Nicole,
what about
Nicole went under in this, engaged, or let's say embarked on the same evolution that many of us did. I mean, my evolution about issues, for example, the border issues, my assumption that President Trump was wrong on the border until I went down and saw the border. And I think a lot of us during COVID went through a philosophical evolution where we started questioning some of the orthodoxies. And Nicole went through that herself.
Do you think she's ready to be president? Because that's one of the qualifications. Can she, day one,
Did any of you watch her speech?
I did.
I mean, anybody who watched that speech, I think it comes away saying, this is a very, very impressive person. This is a person who I would trust. She's the embodiment of the American dream. She started out a welfare kid, food stamp kid, in an utterly impoverished family.
But is she soft on crime? I mean, do we want more of this chaos in the streets?
Listen, Nicole funded the recall for Chess Bowden, who was the defund the police guy in San Francisco. She's not soft on crime. She understands crime. She was the one who actually funded the successful recall of the defund the police guy.
So she regrets giving to Gascon.
She thinks that Gascon was a failure in Los Angeles. What she was dealing with, she was dealing with a very real issue, which is the problem of mass incarceration. We have the highest prison population of any country on earth, including China, which has 5 times our population. And how do you deal, it's not a good thing for America, and a lot of those are nonviolent crimes, they're marijuana offenses. And so she was trying to solve that issue, and I don't know whether she made some mistakes, but I know her own attitude about it has evolved significantly.
Good. We'll
what
ask
was
her.
your
Thank you.
reaction to your family? The picture was released of all of them at the White House, and they're supporting Joe Biden and not you. Your cousin said you were an embarrassment. I saw on another channel they made you watch that clip and get your reaction. And then your sister's not supporting you. I guess no one in the family is because.
Oh no, there's a lot of family members.
How does that make you feel? Why aren't they supporting you?
Well, there are a lot of family members who are supporting me. Okay. My campaign is being managed by Amaryllis Kennedy. My cousin Anthony Shriver is is a chair of my political party. My niece Carolina Shriver is running our student outreach. We have a big family, 105 of us, and a lot of them are supporting. And I don't begrudge people who don't support me. My family has a long, long relationship with Joe Biden, 40 years. I have a personal friendship with him. He has my father's buzz behind him in the Oval Office. There's 5 members of my family that work in the administration, and a lot of them don't agree with me on issues like the war. War in Ukraine. They don't agree with me on censorship. They don't agree with me on the border. So, I come from a family where every night at the dinner table, we were encouraged to debate each other and to debate with passion, informative debates, but also to love each other. And I wish
you let Arnold Schwarzenegger in, and he's a Republican.
Exactly.
All right, good. All right.
Sounds like a regular family. Right? Not everybody's always on the same page.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you so
and you're
much
always
for
welcome.
having me.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.